Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. So we are on Ace of the Diamond Act 2, episodes 39 through 41. I'm recording this a little bit ahead. I just recently watched episodes 36 through 38. I nearly cried. They were great. I was just, oh man, the training camp, the All-Star Weekend in Japan has been just wonderful. I mean, despite Inui getting, blacked out for a second from getting a bat to the head, despite that, it's been a really, really good storyline to follow with this. But also, what's been nice is cutting back and forth between SEIDOU, who are having their own struggles, especially with poor Ono, and then Furuya and Sawamura, and Koshu and Yui, and then cutting back and forth between that and Miyuki's whole thing with Inashiro and everybody else, making friends, staying enemies with Shirakawa, and it's just it's just been a lot of fun, and it's been like this big roller coaster, and we are now getting close to like the 10 episode warning for season 3. What? We just started this season. I don't want to think that we're almost done with it. No. I mean, we still have the manga to catch up with, but that's still so crazy, right? We basically have just like another month and then we'll be caught up. It's kind of insane. So yeah, I don't know what to think about that, but I'm pretty sure that they're gonna leave us off this season on some kind of cliffhanger to lead into season 4. And I'm glad they're making a season 4. It's just gonna take a long time to get through. And while we're waiting, we'll find out what happens in the manga. So there's that. So that's good. I'm happy to know that. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm sure that we're going to round out and finish the weekend games that Miyuki's been absent for. We're going to finish those, and then we're going to finish the All-Star Weekend. Kelsey pointed out in the Discord earlier today, pointed out that actually Miyuki's been coming back and forth this entire time. I was like, wait, what? He's been coming back and forth every night. He's not been staying over there at Inashiro. He's been coming back and forth and leaving early in the morning and going back to the ball field. I was like, wait, what? I thought it was like the training camp where some of them got hotels, some of them stayed in the dorms, and I thought it was just one of those things. But I guess that makes sense because we never see Miyuki room with anyone. So who would Miyuki have roomed with? He probably would have roomed with Umemiya and maybe like Inui or somebody, not Inashiro, right? It's too much baggage there. So, but that's interesting. I was like, man, so every time Miyuki comes back to SEIDOU after being gone at the All-Star Weekend, he like comes back in like the guy off Community with the pizza and like there's just fire all around him and he's like, what did I miss? It's great. So yeah, I'm excited to see what these 3 episodes are going to hold. The last several sets have just been fire. They've just been so good. And we haven't even had a game. Not like a legit, like not like a real stakes game. We've had all these like smaller games building up to the summer tournament, but it's just been great. And so I'm excited to see what these 3 episodes hold. So I poured myself a drink. I'm ready to go. And let's see what all ends up happening, shall we? But we are going to start Ace of the Diamond, episode 39, 40, and 41 of Act 2. And we're going to do so here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Where do I even start? I've never wanted to watch the next set of episodes for this series more than now. And dang it, it's not even a game. It's not even like a major tournament game, but I want to know the ending of this match between Seiho and SEIDOU, and I'm going to have to wait to find out. My mouth hurts from smiling so much. But these episodes were wonderful. Wonderful. I've got like a whole double-sided notes. We got a lot to talk about. We just need to just jump right into this because okay. We just need to talk about this. We didn't really focus much on the American side of the tournament, American versus Japan, the All-Star Weekend. We didn't focus much on them this episode. This was all rightfully so about SEIDOU and Sawamura proving his ability to become the ace. Yeah, at this point, I'm like, Katioki, if you don't make Sawamura the ace for this summer tournament, if you don't, I'm like, it's right there. The writing is on the wall. I need it to happen. I need it. So yeah, Man, and the crazy thing is Miyuki didn't get to see any of this. I hope they taped it. Miyuki gets to watch it to see Koshu. Not only to see Sawamura and how good he does for the most part, and then getting his second win, but to see Koshu like come on into his own. For the record, the Koshu and Sawamura Battery, I love it, and I feel like I'm cheating on Sawamura and Miyuki. I like it just as much for very different reasons. And we'll talk about that for a very different reason. I like it for a very different reason. Okay. And the Miyuki and Sawamura Battery is very different than the Koshu and Sawamura Battery. They're both awesome and amazing. And I love both of them equally, but for very, very different reasons. And we'll talk about it as we go. So these episodes were called I'm Counting on You, Expression, and the last one was, what was it? The last one was Shared Fate. Yeah, Shared Fate, fitting. I'm gonna write that down real quick. Shared Fate. God, if you die, we die. I just like, this was such an inspiring set of episodes. I can't wait to talk to y'all about it. So yeah, we start with Furuya. Furuya's pretty much took a back seat in this episode. This is very much Sawamura's set of episodes, because it's all about him doing what, like, okay, if you start to fall apart, are you going to keep falling apart? Are you going to get a second win? Are you going to push through? What are you going to do? And Sawamura proving that, yeah, he can push through, or at least so we think. Katoga laid the gauntlet down to him, so we'll talk about that. But establishing that Furuya is a monster when he gets in a rhythm, when there's a grain of sand that gets in the gears and throws everything off, then it just all falls apart. But it's funny, Ochiai. Ochiai has really changed his tune a little bit from when he started, right? Because he said he was wanting to focus on winning the national championship. He's like, if we're winning nationals, we need an ace that's going to be able to be consistent and keep it together, right? And it's so different because, in season 2, Ochiai was like, yeah, we'll sacrifice winning. If we can make Furuya better, we'll turn him into the new Naramiya. And I'm like, Furuya and Naramiya are not the same. And that's not gonna work. So it's funny how his mindset has kind of changed after working with SEIDOU and Katioka over all of this time. It's funny how that's changed a little bit. Kaneda talking about taking Furuya's spot as pitcher. I like Kaneda. Kaneda and Kawashima, they're both nice. I like them both as characters. And then Yui got replaced. That was probably harder because Furuya was like, you could tell Furuya was like, okay, I'm getting replaced. I've made it to 100 pitches. I think Furuya was able to understand being swapped out because he knew that once he hit 100 pitches, he didn't need to push himself beyond that because he still needed to rest his arm and recover. So I think he was like, okay, fine, I can sit out. But Yui's expression, we got moved to left field and Masashi got taken out. Yui looked heartbroken. I've felt for Yui the last several episodes because, like we've talked about in the comments section, he works really hard. And a lot of people pointed out, I'm going to talk about him as a leader and a captain. I'm going to talk about that with Yui because somebody pointed out in the comments and I was like, oh yeah. So we'll bring that back up. I've got a note on here to bring it back up. But Koshu gets brought in as catcher for Kaneda. Kaneda's specialty is forkballs. He's a lot like Tamba. Every time I hear the word forkball, I'm like, oh, that's the one Tamba had, right? So yeah, Kaneda, I feel like I'm always going to remember that because it was like the very first type of pitch I ever learned. I was like, oh, a forkball, that's what this is. So it has a special place in my heart. But I like that Kaneda's like, now it's my time to shine. And this is his chance to show his pitching, right? Oh no, you man among men. You young adult, so fierce. When Ray was like, do you want to go change your clothes? He's like, no, I'm going back in what I'm wearing. Like he didn't want to show that he was done, right? He still wanted to support the team and be with the team, even though his damn finger's broken. Like they got a little close up of Furuya's expression for a hot second. Like Furuya's like, because it was Furuya's pitch that did it, but it wasn't his fault, obviously. It was just the way the bat hit it and everything that caused it. But it's like, damn, just broke it. But we'll touch back on that. But yeah, they're down by 1 in the last inning. Yamamori, I love the coach for Yamamori when Ogawara, when he's like, man, they don't have their main catcher. Their other third-year catcher is out of commission because of an injury. They're playing with 2 first-year catchers. He's like, man, they have lots of excuses that they can use if they lose. We have none. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So Yamamori, they have no excuse why they can't win this game. They're batting at full strength, whereas SEIDOU has some setbacks. So I like that. And then when Ono shows up and he has a little fist out to Yui, he's like, got this. It's like, I love it. It's like hashtag roommate love. Like just the bond, the bromance between these roommates is just, I think, as much as I love Miyuki trolling on Koshu, as much as I like that, my favorite set of, and as much as I love, I don't know, it's hard because I do like Miyuki trolling on Koshu. It's funny. I'm torn between my favorite set of roommates. I think it's either Sawamura, Kuromochi, and Asada being like the most brotherly beings, or it's Yui, Ono, and Furuya just being the most glued together BFFs possible. Like, I freaking love it. But then I like Haruichi and Zono, but Megumi's there and I don't like him. So I was like, between Sawamura and Furuya's roommates, they have the best roommates. It's just, what a dynamic. I love it. But what I was going to talk about, and I put my notes here, is that Yui talking about never being satisfied and how he was team captain. And I forgot about this until somebody in the comments a week or so ago pointed this out. They were like, yeah, Yui was the team captain for both elementary and middle school. He's been a team leader. He's been like the leader of the Japan youth group. Like, I was debating like in the Discord who would be captain after the third years. Like the first years we have now, who would be captain? I'm like, I think it would be Yui, because Yui seems like a natural captain material, right? Koshu is way too lone wolf. No. I mean, he's a lot like Miyuki, so I guess if you wanted to challenge him, you could make him captain and make Koshu work out the same way he did like Miyuki, but I'm like, I almost would want Yui to be captain just because of how much a leader he is, and Koshu could be like vice captain. But I don't know if Terajima will ever do an Act 3, or that would be Act 4 technically, which I don't think he would ever do that. Once Sawamura graduates, it'd be over. But I think that if we did have a captain of the third years, it'd probably be Yui. And so, but I like that idea that he's never been satisfied. And he's always been pushing himself harder and harder to do better. And so it's this big inspiring moment where Yui's like, I'm going to keep working harder. And even though I've hit this wall in my first year of high school, I'm going to overcome it and be the best catcher and whatnot. And he's like, if I can't, and he makes that comment, he's like, I'm going to use my play as my strength. He's like, if I can't catch, then I'm going to be the batter, right? And it's this big motivational thing. And then Terajima's just like, nope. He's like, nope. And he strikes out. And you think he's going to hit that ball and it's going to go flying, and it just goes, whoosh. And it's like, oh, shit. And they lose by 1. So it's like, that's his Ono moment now. That's his Ono moment. He got too caught up in his head and then struck out, and that ended their win streak at 19 games. I was, saying in the last couple episodes, I was like, they're going to make it to 21 wins even without Miyuki. No, they lost, and their win streak was at 19. And so then we find out that Ono's finger is broken. It's got 5 to 6 weeks to heal, which they said there was 34 days till the summer tournament started. In episode 41, they said that. So that's, nearly 4 weeks. So there'll be 2 weeks into the summer tournament when he can come back. Just like Tamba. But just like with Tamba, the moment where Kataoka's like, well, good, you'll be healed in time to help us. It's like Kataoka just knows how to just like put the feel on right then and there, right? That was such a good moment. Oh my God. This whole set of episodes is full of good moments. But yeah, so Okamura and Yui are going to be catchers, and with Seiho, Kataoka's like, we're gonna switch the benches, we're gonna swap players out, we're gonna let you guys in this last game, y'all lost, we're gonna let you sit out, we're gonna bring these new guys in, we're gonna change it up. And he's like, Sawamura, I want you to lead the team. It's like, at that point, I'm like, you are basically testing him in this game to say, are you gonna be the ace or not? And it's like, okay. He's like, you wanted to be ace all this time. Now's your chance to prove it. Can you do it? Because, yeah, it's such a setup, right? Because Kataoka's saying, you're going to be pitching to Koshu, who's a first-year catcher you've never really worked with. You've got that. You're going to have an entire roster on the field with you of players who are not who you're used to at all. You're going to have to sync with them, keep them motivated. You're going to have to be on top of your game. You're facing a national winning team. So what are you going to do? Like this, all of this is set up to be the test of can you be the ace or not? Because it's like all these factors, like working with players you're not used to, being with a roster that you have to motivate that aren't used to being on the field and gelled together, facing a national winning team on the field like you are at nationals, like all the elements that would test Sawamura are being set up in this game. And it's like Katioga's way of saying, I'm considering you. Now, are you going to be able to pull through it? And I think by the end of episode 41, we'll talk about it when we get to it. Sawamura does a few things, and I'm like, yep, that's going to cement it. Whether they win or lose this game, that is going to cement that Sawamura is going to be the ace. But yeah, so Ochiai says there's no do-overs. We're at the summer tournament. Now's the time to figure everything out, right? Because we're here. We got a month left. We got 34 days. And then Nishidira, who's the coach for Seiho, he's interesting. He's always got a red nose, which I don't know what that says. A lot of times, like, the stereotype is that if they drink a lot, they have a red nose. So I don't know if that's true with him. But he likened Sawamura at first to Narumiya, which is pretty high praise, because they were just talking about how Narumiya was the one that, like, stole Seiya's thunder his second year. So that's pretty high praise to liken him, being like, oh, this Seido's southpaw. So West Tokyo has 2 high-ranking southpaws. I'm like, damn, Sawamura getting some praise. And the big nose, Raimu, whose nose is, like, comically large. Comically large. He called Sawamura a junk balling southpaw, and I'm sure in the comments you all are going to tell me what that means, but I was like, junk balling? I was like, does that just mean he throws, like, I don't think it means he throws meatballs, it just means he throws, like, trash pitches? Is that what you're saying? Are you trying to say that our boy is trash? No! And they rescind their words quite quickly once the game actually starts, but I was like, junk ball pitcher? I'm sure you guys will all let me know what that means. But Sawamura making Koshu, like, he senses that Koshu is tense, right? He senses he's tense. And he does the same thing with Yui that he does with Koshu. He's like, breathe in. He's like, he tries to get him loosened up, like, come on, take a deep breath. It's fine. And I'm amazed that Koshu actually did it with him. He's probably like, and Koshu with his little catcher gear on, it's like, it's so freaking adorable. But one of the reasons I love this battery between Sawamura and Koshu is because it puts Sawamura in the senpai position. With Miyuki and Sawamura as a battery, Miyuki is the senpai. Miyuki is the one with more knowledge. And so Miyuki makes the calls, and Sawamura's like, okay, I'll agree with you or I won't, but you're making the calls and I'm going to pitch to him. And Sawamura tells Koshu he's going to, you make the calls and I'll pitch to him too. But he incites this. When he started talking about, like, what it felt like to be at Koshin, I was like, our boy Sawamura has matured so much over the course of this series. He starts talking to Koshu about, like, what it's like at nationals. I was like, I got, like, June flashbacks. I got June flashbacks with him. And I was like, our boy Sawamura is being, like, such a senpai and imparting these words of wisdom to his little Kohei. And it just, like, my heart, like, warmed and grew 3 sizes. I was like, what is happening? Like, just giving him all this motivation. And then he does the chant. I love the guy in the crowd was like, that's what we're waiting for. I was like, like, the regulars all know Sawamura at this point. It's like, if he doesn't give that chant, something is wrong. He has to say the chant, right? And then I love that we get Sho. His voice is very handsome. He was like, what is this? Like, he had a very handsome voice. But then Kuramochi's like, if you need some kicks from the bench, I'll give them to you. Like Kuramochi, I feel like he was concerned about Sawamura, like a big freaking brother. But also he's like, I wanted to be the one that the team relied upon. He's like, I'm the 3rd year. Katioga should have said to me to lead the team since I was the vice captain, and I would have done it. But I think he knows what Katioka meant, but Kuramochi's like, damn, I need to be more reliable because this 2nd year is getting to pull the team together. Why aren't we 3rd years pulling our weight? Like, I felt like that was what he was saying. And then Sawamura telling Koshu, he's like, I'll trust you to meet the throw that I give to your mitt. It's like, so good. So Raimu has the big nose, and Seiyu is I guess Sho is also Seiyu, who is the handsome man, who is also the ace of the team of Seiho. And Sawamura, when he said, you're getting it, wolf boy, I was like, I love it. It's just like, there was a little bit of ego to that, right? I liked it. I like Sawamura getting a little ego, a little pitcher ego, right? Where he's like, because here's the thing too with the battery, is that when Miyuki and Sawamura are together, Miyuki kind of has, like, the cockiness to him. Miyuki's the one that, like, ribs Sawamura, and he's like, come on, Sawamura, aren't you going to get it? Like, come on, why aren't you pulling your weight? And Sawamura's like, I am, But in this case, Koshu's the one like, is this what we want? Is this what we're doing? And Sawamura's like, you get it now. Yeah. And so there's like that little bit of cockiness to Sawamura, but it's not arrogance. It's just like that little tiny bit of like confident ego that he gives with Koshu. I just freaking love it. It's so good. Yeah, but yeah, you're getting it, Wolf Boy. He's like, and we're going to make art together. I was like, if you're a Sawamura and Koshu shipper, I imagine that this set of episodes, y'all are like singing all the praises, because I multi-ship. I ship Sawamura and Miyuki, absolutely. But if you all told me that Sawamura ended up like with Koshu, I'd be like, okay, I get it. I do. It's such a different dynamic, but it's just as good. I freaking love it. I'm like, yeah, and Koshu, that yell that Sawamura gives at the end, we've never really seen Sawamura yelling like that. Like just that primal scream. It was so freaking good. Episode 39, mwah. And then episode 40, which is also mwah. Expression. But yeah, so they established they've done the numbers 2, 1, and 4, which I think they've done those numbers quite a bit in this series. But Sawamura being just fine with Koshu. And then I love that when he goes, he's serious with Koshu. There's communication, like the banter when they get off the mound and they're going back to the dugout and they talk back and forth to one another. It's so crazy because they just have this instant, like, Koshu is good at communicating, which is where he is very different than Miyuki. Miyuki, like, gets kind of withdrawn, and he's like, oh, don't you get it? Like, do I have to explain it to you? He's gotten a lot better since becoming captain, but, like, first and second year Miyuki was kind of like, he wasn't as good as communicating. But Koshu, it comes so naturally that when they're walking in the dugout, Koshu's like, hey, do we need to do this next time? And Sawamura's like, yeah, we need to do that. And Sawamura is surprisingly serious with Koshu. Like, he's not joking or being like goofy or anything. He's like, no, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this next. Okay, cool. That's something else I love about their battery. It's just very like down to earth. Let's talk, let's figure this out, and let's do this. And it's freaking awesome. So yeah, so Seiya is interesting because he reminds me a lot of Furuya. And he talks about, he's like, man, I wish I could pitch like Sawamura without any hesitation like that. And I was like, what's your deal? And then we find out that he was called the Super Rookie, and that when their team made nationals, that he had more fame than May. So he's a third year, so he had more fame than May his first year, because May had that incident happen his first year that they talked about, that he slipped up. And I'm guessing it was against Seiya. It was against Seiho that they slipped up at, right? It was either Seiho or Hongo's team. One of those two is where May had his slip up. But I think it was Hongo's team in hindsight. But anyway, he was the Super Rookie the first year. And then the second year, which would have been last year, season 1, he had his elbow injured. And May came up and took all the glory and all the praise. And so it's kind of crazy. But now he's healed up and he doesn't seem like that. And I like that Furuya kind of called out. He was like, oh, he was injured. Like, yeah, like he's regained his strength. And like he probably did physical therapy and everything his entire second year, and did like Sonata and started doing all the workouts and stuff to build himself back up. And now you can't tell that he was injured. And man, this team's got a big obsession with like his butt. Like all that hell. They're like that, the phrase when it's his own teammates saying that butt, that thigh line, the phrase that thigh line should never be uttered by human lips. So I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I feel a little creepy hearing this team. But he does seem a lot like Furuya, where he said, and I love that the way that, and the reason I think that is because the way they described him, they're like, he did super well because he had really powerful third years backing him up his first year, like Furuya. And then he had all of this pressure put upon him as the ace, and he kind of buckled under the pressure temporarily and had his injury, like what has happened with Furuya. But Furuya's bouncing back, and clearly Seiya has bounced back. So that gives me hope if you are a Furuya fan, and that gives me hope since I don't want Furuya to self-implode. I like the idea that Furuya could be like Seiya, where he had an off year, and then he came back and bounced back and was really, really good. So yeah, I like that comparison, right? But Seiya, just like Furuya, Seiya's like, I'm getting fired up and excited thanks to Sawamura. And I'm like, Furuya gets spurred forward because of Sawamura. So I like that too. It's great. But then Koshu making the good calls. I like when Seiya and Sawamura are up against each other, and Sawamura's like, you're not going to have more desire than me to win this. I was like, ooh, Sawamura getting like a little bit of ego to him with Koshu as the battery. I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm here for our Sunshine Boy, like showing off his dominance as the ace. I like it. I like it. But I like the coach says this is going to be a battle of endurance. Like which ace is going to last longer. Very much like, I feel like Seiya may be to Sawamura what Hongo was to Furuya in a sense, as far as like that competition of ace versus ace goes. But I like that Sawamura also says at some point, he's telling Koshu, he's like, back earlier on in episode 39, he's like, I get motivated by playing these awesome teams because they make me realize that I can still get better and be like them. And it's like, that's so freaking cool. But it's pretty much a stalemate for the most part. And then Seiho does this whole no stride thing where they stand a certain way and like lock their hip in place and they like swing from the hip and it gives them an advantage. So that was interesting to see. I like that we are 3 seasons into the series, like 200 episodes in, and we're still learning things about baseball. At this point, you think that you would have seen everything that has to do with the sport, but no, we're learning new stuff all the time. And that's kind of why I love this series, is because we keep learning new things as we go. It's great. But yeah, so they've been thinking about saving number 7 and number 11, saving those 2 types of balls for later on in the game for when they really need them. And now they're thinking about it. And Coach is like, okay, is it too late? Can we bring them out now? But I love that Sawamura, I love that he's like, It's like, not yet, Koshu. He's like, I ain't ready. We're good. We're still good. I love just the confidence of Sawamura and how when you compare to seasons 1 and seasons 2, when he was like unsure of himself and doubting himself and being like, do I make this call? What do I do? Sawamura at this point in the series, he's like, no, things may happen, but no, not yet. I know myself enough. We're good. And I love that he's able to disagree with Koshu, and Koshu's just like, okay, we're going to roll with this. And they end up doing the number 2, and they do the 5-4-3 double play. That was so friggin' cool. I was like, yes, it was so good. And then Nori noticing at this point that Sawamura is sweating. And I think it's just because Sawamura, he has all the pressure on him because Katioka's like built him up being like, everything's on you. He's got it all the pressure on him. Koshu's a first-year catcher, so he's making these really bold all-out calls right off the bat. And it makes sense Sawamura is like all in this game, but Nori's like, you're pushing yourself real hard this first half. Are you going to be able to carry it over in the second half? And I like that Nori is observant, and he doesn't say anything to Sawamura. He just makes the observation. He's like, okay. And then he goes up to Yui and them afterwards. He's like, let's go practice like right now, because we just need to get ready in case if we're needed. But yeah, Ono talking about practicing the numbers and how you should probably do it when they have 2 strikes, because then there's a little bit more pressure on the batter. And then I like how Koshu was like, I've been trying to explain this to him the whole time. And I was like, you're just not wording it right. And then just Sawamura's banter with Koshu. It's so freaking good. Like all the glove bumps, all the like gloves in chest, everything. I'm like, it's just, what else could you ask for? What more could you ask for? These episodes were fantastic. And then Seiho, again, being like, we're the bigger team. And then like zooming in on these crotch shots. Like, why? Stop. I've never felt more uncomfortable in this series. I was like, please stop. I like you, Seiya, but I don't want to see your crotch shots, please. But yeah. And then the idea of I'm not ready to leave. Yeah. And the bases are loaded. And then I like that whole thing where he's like, communication. Like, he's like, communication to Koshu. And then oh my gosh, Seiya saying to Koshu, he's like, bite me if you dare. I was like, oh my God, it's a wolf analogy. And then when Koshu's up to bat, he's like, I had that look in my eyes once too. I was like, damn, Seiya, what is your deal? Like, he's been through the ringer, and he gets Koshu out, right? He gets him out. So both Koshu and Yui had moments where they had these big motivational pep talk moments, and then just did not work. But yeah, Nori has been observant of Sawamura this whole time. He tells Kariba, not Yui, Kariba and Kawashima, he's like, we need to go practice. And I like that the manager notices that everybody has been practicing getting ready without being told. Like, they all are ready to come in at a moment's notice. I love that. And I love they established that Sawamura is the one keeping them all in the game. Like, he's the one stringing all of these bench players together for this. He's keeping everybody in the game, but even he's starting to get tired, right? And that whole thing with Koshu missing the ball and letting the runner run, that part was insane and intense. I was like, oh my God. And then, but also being like, no, man, we're not going to stop now. Also is like so underrated. I feel like Aso is such an underrated player in the series because you forget about him, right? Because the series chooses not to focus on him for a long time. But then when they do, you're like, damn, Aso. I feel like he's been slowly growing this whole series. And he does such a good play here. Like back to Koshu. Like that was so freaking good. Like that, getting that guy out right at home. It's like, yes. And then Sawamura, when he was like, Aso, yeah. And for Aso to blush, where he's like, it was so good. And then there's the idea of the third year supporting him. They're like, Sawamura, we got you. They're like, don't you let this fatigue hit you. Like, we're here for you. We're to support you. And even Seto was blushing. Also, like, blushing from the Sawamura praise. But it's just the idea that Sawamura, like Nori says, Sawamura takes this so seriously. Like, it's that May mentality. I talked in the last episode about how May was like, we win whatever game we're playing, whether it's a scrimmage, whether it's intra-squad, whether it's a practice game, whether it's a national tournament, we came to win and we're going to play with 120%. And that mindset that May has is now, like, we see that paralleled with Sawamura. Like, even though this game isn't the national tournament game, even though they just lost and stop their winning streak, he's like, no, we're not going to take this easy. And so because he takes it so seriously, Nori's like, the third years feel like they have to support him because otherwise how can they call themselves third years, right? But Sawamura in episode 41, Shared Fate, he really had pulled it together because you could tell he was tired, but just getting that second win, keeping it going. And we're going to talk about this, but Masashi hits the home run. Holy shit, Masashi just out of nowhere. Terajima has this thing where you're in the middle of a thought and then just something happens and you're like, wait, what? And that's baseball. Like Masashi just knocks it out of the park. And the whole joke, the inside joke that they were all going to surprise Masashi by just sitting quietly on the bench and then jumping up and cheering for him. And Sawamura's like, what are you guys doing? Did you not just see we just broke, it's like 7 innings in and we just broke the 0-0 thing? What? But he wasn't in on the joke. They were giving Masashi the silent treatment until the last second. And then they were going to surprise him. Because he was the first year that got the home run. And Sawamura they know. And somebody didn't tell Sawamura the joke. Now the question is, was it Koshu that was supposed to tell him? Was it SEIDOU? Somebody forgot to give Sawamura the message about if Masashi hit the home run. Now, we don't know who that was, but it may never be found out. But we can speculate who dropped the ball and didn't give Sawamura the memo. But Seiya saying that he was angry that a first year got a home run off his pitch. And he said that'll do a lot of damage. But then, yeah, so Koshu and Sawamura, this whole discussion that they have, that's like, if you're a Koshu and Sawamura shipper, this whole scene was probably your dream. Because, yeah, Koshu caught feels real hard in this episode when Sawamura was telling him, like, just talking about him being, he's like, we're partners, Koshu. And Koshu's like, partners? Because Seidou's not a catcher. Seidou's like a third baseman or an infielder. And so, I don't remember what base SEIDOU covers. I thought it was third base, but I could be wrong. But he's not a catcher. So we don't know who Koshu is a catcher, but we don't know who the pitcher was for their team, right? We don't know who their pitcher was. So we don't know what kind of battery Koshu had with them. But the moment that Sawamura calls him partner, it's like they're on equal playing fields. They're equal terms. They both they have a shared fate, right? And at that point, Koshu's just like the sparkle. Like, I don't know if his eyes got necessarily the sparkle, but they were like, okay. And him saying he's a roller coaster ride. Oh my gosh. Come on, Koshu. Oh, he's a roller coaster ride. I love it. And then we cut to Sawamura. And he's like, even if it was to motivate my single-minded self, he's like, I wanted to take Kataoka's words as serious as I could to keep me motivated. It's like Sawamura is so aware. He's so smart. He was talking back. Is that the notes I had on there? I was trying to think of what I was meaning to write there. But he is a thinker. He does think about these plays. And Koshu at some point is surprised by that. He's like, oh, you were thinking about that? And Sawamura's like, yeah, I was thinking ahead of that. Like, Sawamura, again, we say it time and time again, but he comes across as this sunshine character who is loud and maybe obnoxious. And because he's loud, a lot of people, I think, equate that he's not smart. No, Sawamura, when it comes to baseball, Sawamura is smart and he does think. He is a very strategic pitcher, and it's just, you don't realize it, right? Because he hides it around this big, loud, boisterous sunshine presence. But in the end, yeah, he really is thinking, and that's one of the reasons why Miyuki likes him so much in their battery, because he knows that they get on the same wavelength. Miyuki's like, I'm thinking about this. Are you thinking about this? And Sawamura often is. And I think Koshu's just realizing that too, which is awesome. But Sawamura's like, I want to succeed and meet up to my team and my coach's expectations. It's like, yes, it's not just for himself, it's for the team, right? Sawamura is not here to grow to make himself better. He's here to grow to help his team win. I'm like, that's what I love about him. And so they're testing the numbers, and Koshu is really calm and collected during all of this. And Koshu is noticing, he's like, the pitches aren't bad. It's just that we're practicing the numbers, and the numbers are not syncing up like they should. He's like, they're not quite in the strike zone. The ball control is off with the numbers, and that's making everything kind of feel off. And so I love that both Sawamura and Koshu are aware of what's going on. It's not like one of those things where Sawamura is like, I don't know what's happening. No, he knows, and he's trying to adjust, and Koshu knows. So that's really cool that they both understand what's happening in the moment. And then I love that shot of Zono and Kurbochi like sending their energy to them, like doing the same pose that Sawamura and them did earlier. It's great. But then, Koshu, my dude, the moment where he came up to talk to Sawamura, and Sawamura's like, and he's like, if you die, we all die. And that's like, so it's like, at first, you're like, okay, is Kateoka considering him for the ace? We'll talk about Rei in a minute. And then, but in this it's like, Koshu, are you viewing him as the ace? It's like, yes, because he's like, if you die, we all die. And when he says, I won't let you die alone, that's the most romantic thing that's ever been uttered by a character in a sports anime. I'm sorry. I'm like, Miyuki, that's my thing. We were talking in the comments last couple weeks of how Miyuki and Koshu are different. And they're very similar. They're very different. I don't know if Miyuki would ever utter the phrase, I won't let you die alone. I don't know if he would or not. I think I'll die if he ever says that. But he's like, I'll die if he says that. But he's like, I won't let you die alone. Like, damn, Koshu is so loyal. He may be a wolf. He may be a wolf boy, but he is a damn loyal wolf. He's like, we're in a pack, and the pack stays loyal, right? It's like, damn. And then Furuya with Sawamura being ready. Like, I just love it. It's like Furuya with Sawamura. Oh my gosh, I don't exactly know what that note meant. I was like, what am I saying? Oh yeah, okay, so Furuya with Sawamura, they're both being tested as pitchers, right? They're both having moments where they start to fall apart, and it's like, okay, what do you do? How do you pick it back up, right? And Koshu, I love that he's kind of like Miyuki in this moment. He starts to get bold. He's thinking about it, but he's like, let's also be a little bit bold and strategic. And I love that Sawamura's like, okay. And that moment where he sees Miyuki like juxtaposed over Koshu, he's like, you're reminding me a lot of your senpai. Okay, that's a good thing. It's a compliment, right? And he's like, if we lose focus, we're dead. And Seiya notices that Sawamura is getting a second win. And Seiya seems impressed. Seiya's like, okay, you're not falling apart. Good deal. So then we cut over to Kurmochi. And just Kurmochi, Haruichi, Zono, Ono, they're all frustrated and angry. They're like, why am I on the bench? I want to be out there with Sawamura. And that's just the presence that he has that's so much like an ace. When your ace brings your team together and gets them fired up, motivated. And that's what Sawamura is doing in this game. So I'm like, he's the ace. He has to be. And then Sawamura saying, I love how much our boy has grown. When he says, he's like, I've been at my lowest point. He's like, I've faced situations where the worst possible thing has happened, but I can bounce back. Yeah, I love that he's like, no, this isn't the end. It's not the end. If I face a rough moment, I just got to brush it off and bounce back. That's all I got to do. And it's like, it's so satisfying. It's so good to see how much our boy has grown. And then Ray's like, he's inspiring the team like an ace, tying back to when he was ace of his middle school team. I'm like, yes, he's learned so much since his first year. It's all coming full circle. I'm like, if Kataoka, if you don't make him the ace, I'm like, after this game, no. But then Sawamura, that's the whole moment where he has that moment where, again, Kataoka's like, look, you, it's good. And at first, I thought that Sawamura was going to go out. I thought he was, because Sawamura very rarely does Sawamura stick up and say, no, let me stay in the game. The last couple of times he said that, he was still taken out, right? And it was such like a blow. But Sawamura, he's like, no, I want to stay. And Kataoka's like, why? You've been unstable. Things are wild. Some of your pitches are erratic. Why should I keep you in? And Sawamura's like, no, I'm getting this. It's fine. I intended to stay from the start. I wanted to start this game. I want to finish it. And I love that Kataoka asks Koshu, he's like, what do you think? And Koshu's like, we can do this. We figured out a strategy. He acknowledges to Kataoka. He's like, hey, we're one step ahead. We know that we had a bad moment, but we're bouncing back. Things are getting better at the end of this inning. We figured out what the issue is. We've adjusted. We'll be fine. And I hate that we don't find out what happens. I was like, you mean to tell me you couldn't just save that into the American tournament for next episode and tell us how this one ends? How dare you, show? How dare you? But I love that Kataoka takes it very seriously, Koshu's words, and he's like, okay, Sawamura, you get one runner on base and you're out. Prove to me that you can do this. You let one runner go, and because at this point they're still in the lead. He's like, if you let one runner go, it's over. And Sawamura's like, okay. And I love that Koshu's like, okay, we should take it easy now. And Sawamura's like, no. He's like, you should take it easy batting, right? Just go easy so you won't be so tense pitching and you'll save your strength. And Sawamura's like, it's really nice, Wolf Boy. I'm glad you're looking out for me. I'm not going to do that at all. And I think Seiya respects him for it, because when he comes up to the bat and has all the fire and energy, Seiya's like, okay, you're not cutting slack. You're not going easy this round so you can come back and pitch. You're still giving it 120%. I respect that. I feel like Seiya does respect Sawamura quite a bit. And that tenacity where Sawamura is like, no, I'm not giving up or showing any signs of weakness or anything like that. And then he goes up to bat and Kataoka smiles. I think we had Koshu acknowledge him. We had Ray acknowledge him. And the moment that Kataoka smiled, I'm like, no matter what the results of this game are, I think Sawamura is going to be the ace. I don't know. I think he could be. I'm like, are you going to do it, show? Are you going to give us what we want? Are you going to reward us after all this pain? I was like, are you going to? I still feel so bad that Miyuki couldn't see this game. They couldn't see Koshu and Sawamura doing so well and being so on top of things and bouncing back from when they were at their lowest point so far in this last couple of episodes. But it's fine. Maybe Nabe and somebody has taped it and they'll show Miyuki. I don't know. Maybe Miyuki will hear from everybody else just how good Sawamura did. I don't know. That would be interesting. But yeah, so we cut back to everybody. We cut back to everybody with the American team and Japan because the show likes to create tension like that. So I love the interactions though that we had. We had like Carlisle with his arm wrapped around Inoue, like the two captains, the American captain and Japan's captain, being buddies. I love it. And I think Carlisle was the one that hit him with the bat. So it seems fitting that Carlisle was like, hey, no hard feelings, right? No. No concussions here. But yeah, so the Americans ended up winning overall. They won 3 games, I think, to the 2. Miyuki gave the high chew to all the Americans, and they're like, high chew. So I really hope that Miyuki's like, you knew what you were talking about, Sawamura. They really liked. I'm waiting for him to go back to the dorms and Sawamura to like peek around the corner and be like, did they like the high chew? I'm just waiting for Sawamura to be like, did they like the high chew, Miyuki? And Miyuki's like, they took it. Like, he doesn't want to admit that Sawamura was right and had a great idea. But yeah. May's now friends with the Americans because he proved he's a good pitcher. It's great. May's also with Inoue because they're now BFFs forever, and I freaking love it. And then Carlos with Shunshin because Carlos befriended everybody. It was a little sad at the very end there. You see all these different players interacting, and Miyuki's kind of standing there alone. But Miyuki's kind of introverted, so it makes sense that Miyuki is not like the throw my arm around your shoulder, unless it's Sawamura, throw your arm around the shoulder kind of guy. He's much more introverted than that, much more private. So it makes sense that he's not like all... I think him and Umamiya have a moment where they're like, hey, you know, because him and Umamiya became friends. And then Umamiya became friends with the Americans who called him Elvis. It's great. But then they end the episode 34 days till the summer tournament. So they didn't tell us the ending of the game. I'm sure we'll get that next episode. I hate that I have to wait a week. But here we are. That's so frustrating. I was like, how dare they? How dare they? But it'll be worth it to find out. But I hope they win. But even if they don't, I think he's gonna make Sawamura the ace. Now, whatever the roster's gonna be, I don't know. I feel like Koshu might have secured himself a spot in the top 20, and maybe Yui. I hope Yui did. I hope that he doesn't take Yui off because of this, because of that play. I hope he doesn't. I really hope he doesn't. I'm like, but I don't know, right? It's 20 players. It's going to be hard. They've got to pick 20 players after this game, right? So if we had 20 players, oh man. Okay. So I think obviously Sawamura. So Sawamura, we have Furuya, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to mark out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then Miyuki, obviously. Zono, obviously. Kuramochi, obviously. And then Haruichi. Just like lining these out. So that's 6. I think Tojo. Shirasu. I think Aso. We see Nori, definitely. Ono, for sure. I think Koshu will make it. Masashi, I hope. And Yui. Would Kariba make it? I'm assuming Kariba. And then if we also had Higisa. If we also had Kanemaru. If we also... Ooh, I don't know if Seto will make it. Would Seto make it? Maybe. I'm trying to think of anybody else that would not already be on here that could possibly make it. Oof. So mainly those main ones would. Okay, Ono and Koshu and Yui. Aso and Nori. Well, but you also have Kaneda and Kawashima. Damn, that would be 20. Oof. It's not a lot of room. Not a lot of room for error. Who, buddy? But that is leaving out some people. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be interested to see. I hope they do like a big lineup and tell us who all is getting on that roster. That's going to be... Oof. Okay. Damn. So yeah, these episodes were amazing. I loved them a lot. They were really, really good. I want to know what happened at that game, but I'm sadly taking like the rest of the week off, so I'm not going to know for a week. I watch ahead now. I have to wait a week, but you all have to wait even longer, so I shouldn't say anything. I should not say a word, but these episodes, they've been amazing. I'm sad the training camp is over. For the record, Kunitomo's smiling. It's creepy. I don't know how to feel about it. I'm like, I'd rather see him cracking his neck than smiling. I'm like, it feels off. But yeah, these episodes were just so good. And now my like Sawamura Koshu hardest ship my ship has sailed with them alongside my Miyuki Sawamura ship. They're both like, the good thing about this is, and I guess that was what my third year comment was. The good thing about this is Sawamura working so good as a battery with Koshu is so relieving, because that means if Sawamura is the ace, then next year when Miyuki is gone, then him and Koshu will be able to work together great as a battery. And Sawamura works fine with Yui, so that's going to be fine as well. And Koshu works fine with Furuya. So you're going to have a lot of being able to mix and match your pitchers and catchers, and it's going to work out fine. Because yeah, once Miyuki and Nori and Ono are gone, I mean, Kariba will still be there, and Kaneda and Kawashima will still be there, right? But you need to have that rotation that's available, and I think that this set of episodes proved that Sawamura and Koshu will make a good battery. And I love them as a battery. It's so Sawamura being the fountain of wisdom for this battery is interesting, and it's like it's a shift in domination, because with Miyuki and Sawamura, Miyuki's kind of the more dominant one, right? Like, Sawamura has his moments where Miyuki's like, oh, okay, sure thing. But for the most part, Miyuki's like the one in charge making the calls. And here, Koshu, even though he's making the calls, Sawamura has a little bit more of that dominance. And so I like it. I like our Sunshine Boy being able to show off in this episode and working past. It's so rewarding because the moment he started having a little bit of fatigue and the girl kept saying, he's not 200 pitches yet, he shouldn't be this tired. And it's like, I was afraid that, like, and then we cut to the flashbacks of all the bags under his eyes, and I was like, never again, get that shit out of here. And then he doesn't. He works through it. That just the growth on our boy. It's huge. I love it. So yeah, I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. These episodes were fantastic. I loved them. I'm so curious to know what you thought. But yeah, next week, guys, we only have like 10 episodes left. It's insanity. We got like 10 episodes left. So we'll be doing episodes 42, 43, and 44 of Ace of the Diamond. We're just going to start the summer tournament. That's as far as we're going to get. We're going to get to the very start of it, and it's going to be a big old tease, and then I'm going to start reading the manga. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, next week we'll be looking at episodes 42, 43, and 44 of Ace and the Diamond Act 2.